Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate 1 year special edition. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share this 1 year special. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Iron Realm Media, Jose, and The Plain Truth. Good to have you all.
Afternoon, Nathan. Congratulations, pal.
Thank you very much. 1 year.
Hello, hello, hello. What?
Hello, Travis.
Happy anniversary.
And
Good
hello,
morning.
Jose.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start off the show with a good news story. So, good news! So, Jose started a GoFundMe yesterday and so far has raised $150 towards a originally $700 target to get himself a P900. Didn't want to stretch to the P1000, which is perfectly reasonable. So he asked a fairly modest amount, which he then dropped when he found out that there was a few people who were selling them second-hand for around $350. So that's his current target, so he's around halfway towards his target. However, last night, Jaron Campanella of Jaronism and Globebusters got in touch with me and explained that should he not be able to attend the show today, which he intends to do but may not, it's obviously 6 AM where he is now, then let Jose know that an anonymous donator has contacted him, paid for the camera, and so long as Jose passes on his address, it's now Jose's camera. So Jaron's camera's now Jose's camera. And he's also raised $150 towards a few accessories. Oh, is that Jaron? Hello?
It is I.
Hello!
It's
You're just
Riley.
getting a good
Somebody
mention.
kick him.
See,
Good morning.
so clause does exist.
Yeah.
He does.
What a great community we live in.
Did I miss anything? I missed the beginning of the show.
Yeah, you were being thanked for your... I passed on your message to Jose as a good news story to open the show with. So Jose's all
sweet.
excited.
Good. Yeah, Jose. Yeah, nice anonymous donor gave me a donation and said, send the camera on your way. So just pass me your address and it's yours.
Beautiful news, man. I can't thank enough to the anonymous donator and the three people to donate it to the campaign before I finished it, which I'm gonna use it to buy accessories. I want to buy me a good tripod, maybe an extra battery, and an extra SD card if necessary. So thank you. I can't thank you enough, everybody that was part of it. Jaron, that's gonna be awesome. To good use.
Good. Yeah, that's what I'm happy with. Let it stay in the community and then I'll get to reap the benefits of some of your observations. So win-win for me.
Yeah, his address is 312 Strawberry Lane.
Right.
So you're replacing the camera, Jaron?
Yeah, I actually have a P1000 already.
How you getting on with it? Do
So far, so good. Yeah, so far I really like it.
you find that the time it takes to zoom is a fair bit longer?
Yeah, well, I mean that the lens of it's huge. You know, by the time you've extended it completely, like it's about a foot long. So yeah, it does take a little bit of time, but I mean nothing that's going to stop you from making observations, right?
No, not at all. It was just the only thing I noticed with Ranties. I mean, as much as Anthony's like, no, the P900 is perfectly adequate. I saw the differences that Sandra put up with the, I think it was an oil platform, and there was no comparison. It was just so much better. Not that I'm knocking the P900, it's an exceptionally good camera, and a lot of the footage, if not most of the footage we see today has come from the P900. It is, you know, the benchmark. It's still is, but unfortunately, it's not as good as the P1000 for obvious reasons. It's a considerably more expensive camera.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's not like once you have the P1000, you still pick up the P900. There's no way. You just that's why it's just been sitting here.
Yeah, I want really quick to thank the 3 people that donated. First person was Sandra P900 Cool Pics. She donated something. She donated $25. And thank you to an anonymous donor. That is a person very loved by all of us. And that person told me to please do put it anonymous. And thank you for the $100 big donation. And the other $25 was Soundly himself. And he typed a message down. Please do more punctuatory observation. Thank you, Soundly. Thank you, Sandra. And thank you, anonymous donor. Appreciate it. And very, very much thank you to the anonymous person that paid for the camera, to Jaron. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, what a fabulous community we work within. Not many communities would do that. That said, I'm sure when Red Rhetoric was on the scene, didn't he have a GoFundMe for a crashed car or something of that nature?
Yeah.
I've seen a few kind of questionable ones in that corner.
Yeah. Car insurance claim.
And this is nothing fancy. I mean, I got a cheap camera right now. It's a Canon PowerShot. Older version is a 50 times zoom. And I went 2 days ago to do observations. I took like 25 videos, 2 and 3 minute videos, and half of them didn't record because it tells me, the SD cards get corrupted. I mean, somehow the camera is just not recording everything. And it's all pixelated and blurry, and it's a pain, to get some good footage and then come home, plug it in on my phone, and half of the footage is gone. So this is going to be an awesome for everybody, because I just want to create content and put it out there to share with everybody and figure out the optics on the reality we all live in,
Absolutely heartbreaking when you do something like that. Unreliable cameras losing footage, just devastating. You get back and like, where the hell is it? Why didn't it record? I missed that moment. So have you actually captured anything with your new P1000, Jaron?
Yeah, actually just some distant shots, and then recently we went over to like Moss Landing, which is kind of that middle point between Pacific Grove, where, if you remember, I did the 4-mile laser test from Lovers Point,
right?
And and then Lovers Point and Santa Cruz are about 30 miles distance, and just watching boats really, and also tracking boats left to right, so that kind of watching boats leave the Monterey Harbor and then head over to Santa Cruz. So that's what it appears they're doing. I mean, I don't have any communication with these boats or really know exactly what their path is, but that's what it appears to be doing, and makes sense, and takes about as long as you would expect, maybe an hour and a half or hour and 15 minutes to go from one side to the other. So I'd be having the boat move at, 30 miles per hour, thereabouts, 25. And these are like little speedboats I'm talking about, we don't see the container ships that I see other people, or the steam line like Ranty shows, not at the Monterey Harbor, because basically there's no dock here, so they don't come here and then leave. So usually we just see a lot of like whaling boats or whale watching, sorry, not whaling, whale watching boats, or little speedboats that kind of go across this harbor here. I guess you would call it a bay.
Anything to report? Anything in regards to cute viewing angles and things of that nature?
Well, it's your anniversary show, right?
Jeez.
Yeah. Congratulations on that.
Have you got a cold? You sound like you're stuffed up.
I just woke up.
Oh,
I'll clear up within 15 minutes or so, but no, it's usually the sound I get.
A voice changer is that deep.
No, just it's 6 a.m.
6 a.m. You got out of bed for this?
I know, I'm crazy.
I'm very grateful.
Dedicated to the cause.
No problem. It's good actually that I'd probably be on more often if the show was at 7 or 8, and then probably waste my day away sometimes. So it's good. I listen to you guys in the morning. Usually taking a walk pretty early in the morning, and it's nice to have something to listen to.
Jaron, you know that video that you put with the pavement in the background, your most recent one?
Right.
Have you noticed that effect is also happening in other parts of that same video? It doesn't have to be the curb. It's just going towards that horizon. You can see that squashing effect.
Yeah, and you can see some reflections. And yeah, I just noticed some of that stuff and saw people pointing that out. So
Did you see Miles the Liar Davis's response video where he's put planks of wood along the floor?
no, I didn't watch Miles Davis.
No.
I did see the guy who tried to show us that his model shows us that it doesn't happen. So I guess
Carmody. Yeah, Heath Carmody.
Yeah, so basically that guy appeals to the model rather than appeals to whatever's going on real world and says that well, my model says. That's called reification, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Miles put down these boards in a corridor, and I didn't quite understand why he put boards down, but someone said it was because the lens on his camera was like central on the back of his camera, so he couldn't really get the lens low enough. So rather than dig a hole, he had to like lift the floor, and that was the reason why he did it. But he did it with like the most non-reflective product you could ever possibly think of, and I think the reflections are probably something to do with it. I'm not saying they definitely are, but Nathan's like did it over the like that floor that adds some kind of sheen to it, and that sheen appears. I mean, I might be wrong, but I just noticed that his was like the most non-reflective floor that you could ever probably use, and I wonder whether that had an effect on it. But he also used a laser, and it's like, well, why didn't you put like a bottle top or a book or something at the end, which is what we were demonstrating? Why put a laser beam? I don't know why he did that either, and for me, it just reeks of misrepresentation.
Well, yeah, and the hilarious part for me is he saying that the observation we're showing doesn't happen?
In essence, yes.
I've got it on screen, Nathan, if you want it.
Yeah, while we're showing this, Adam, I've just sent you a video, Anthony, that's had most of the morning working on it with me and Flat Earth Audio. Can you download it so you can play it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is Miles the Liar Davis's video, Jaron, with his boards and his laser. I don't know. Maybe Adam can tell me because I've not actually watched this other than what Adam showed me. Did he have the laser above the camera?
The laser was sat basically 1 centimetre above the level of the board, and then he was bringing the camera hopefully as level with the centre of the laser by it being slightly lower, obviously sat on the carpet and butted up against the board. So he's trying to get it as level as possible, which obviously should negate some of that compacting because it is in the center of frame, the center of the dot. But
and one problem real quick, just off the bat, I mean, Nathan's observation in that ping pong room, Nathan, how far was that book from you?
I don't know. I would have to guess about 20 or 30 feet.
And this
mine
was 12.
Mine was quite a bit longer, and I mean, this is extremely short. So I would like to see this reproduced at double this distance, 3 times this distance, because it's going to be that far before you start noticing what I did on the street, which is going to be my observation is 200 feet.
Yeah, well, if you did it, let's just say, I mean, we've all got access to a supermarket, right? It needs to be done on a supermarket floor because that way you can't argue that there's like undulations in the floor that are appearing to look like a curve. Because M. Scott Veach actually believes that Nathan's floor is curved. He thinks that yeah, he reckons it's convexly curved. And I'm like, don't be ridiculous. It's just, and I said to him, are you suggesting that because it goes against your view so much that you actually now believe that the floor's curved? I mean, come on, the floor's fundamentally going to be flat. But he actually said, yeah, he'd rather believe that the floor was convexly curved than accept that it was doing what we're saying it's doing.
This is kind of the cool thing. Sit back and watch these guys scramble, knowing that what we're saying happens. I mean, so it's just kind of go ahead and fudge what you need to fudge and pretend what you need to pretend and set up what you need to set up until you wake up to reality. Hey, do you guys in the UK have Home Depots or Lowe's or Costco?
Walmart.
Well, I know everybody has Walmarts. They kind of run the world, but well, I don't know how much it would cost if they would ever let you in, 30 minutes before store opening, but imagine the effects that we get on one of those floors where you're talking maybe 200 yards. There's some super Walmarts here that are, man, I would guess they're upwards of at least over 100 yards.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it with most people. I mean, how many people work inside a warehouse? There'd be loads of people that work in a warehouse. Zach did it, didn't he, on his warehouse? I mean, don't forget, remember when Good Times for All did his paint lids?
Absolutely.
He's
one of
the originator of this.
It's kind of already been done. But check this. I don't know if you can see my screen, Jaron. If you click the link, if you click the thumbnail at the bottom.
Gotcha.
This has been motion tracked. So what you're looking at is the effect of the immediate horizon in front of you. And what it's showing is that this is from Al K, and Al K was trying to debunk Ranty at the time, but inadvertently now basically shows that there is this lensing effect on the horizon, which, you know, we've all seen before, but you never really think of it because until it's pointed out to you that whatever's going on at the horizon with regards to what we're looking at is what they would call curvature because it's obstructed. So this is Al K's own video trying to debunk Ranty, but actually it shows the effect perfectly because you can see this distortion effect. And I mean, I'm not persuaded that I understand what's causing it. I understand that the angle is maybe part of it, but I think there might be more than one factor at play. But the point remains that there is the obstruction at the horizon that seems to be like optical, that they all interpret to be the curvature. And we're laughing at them saying it's definitely not curvature, but we don't know what it is. And yeah, angle's part of it. But this is Al K's own video that basically debunks himself, but he doesn't realize all the obstruction at the all the obstruction at the horizon is not the curvature of the Earth. It's some kind of optical thing.
Hey, Chocolate. This is all just down to the angle. This is less than a mile. You know, with a P900 zoomed in at effectively the angle being narrowed by the hills. So all that's happening is the angle gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And then you end up with that miraging effect. It's as simple as that, you know. Yeah, you'd see the same thing happening on my images if I was doing it with a P900 as opposed to a iPhone. But if you zoom in, you can see it nice and clearly.
Can you hear me, gentlemen?
Hello, Chocolate. Good to have you.
Chocolate.
What's up, guys? Happy 1 year anniversary, bro.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
I mentioned in my live stream recently, is that 1980? Is that your birth year?
Yes.
All right. Kudos. Cheers for being a 1980s baby. Me too.
Me too.
So's Anthony.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're all babies.
I'm older than
you. Born, Jaron?
January.
Oh, I'm September. And Nathan is what month?
August.
So Jaron is oldest of us all.
I got some months on you.
Yeah, you were almost a 70s kid.
Almost. I missed it by.
I'm a 76 kid.
Woohoo! 75 in the house.
73, you youngsters.
Oh.
Can
you imagine
72 boys, 72.
Jared, if you were classed as a 70s child, but really you were like right at the very, very back end of it, you are actually really an 80s child, and you wouldn't associate with most of the music in the 70s. So really good that you made it into this side of the 80s, because if you were actually a 70s kid, you wouldn't know any of the music.
Yeah, good thing mom held out.
Yeah.
I bet you know the Menudos, right, Jaron? Menudos was all over the place.
Yeah.
Jose, I had a Menudo's lunchbox. Trust.
You see, I'm telling you, bro. That was that Puerto Rico represent, you know, man, all over the world in the early 80s.
Funny thing is, I'm not even Puerto Rican. Paris was just like, oh, you need a lunchbox? Here they go. I don't know who these guys are, but here's your lunchbox. Awesome. I'm at work, so I'm gonna mute for a little bit, but I'll be here listening.
Jaron, have you found anything more interesting out about the golf thing on the moon? The last thing I heard was that you had the video back and that you'd published it, and it was public.
That was about it. Just looking through that video footage, I don't think anybody can disagree that it's not proof of squat. But unless that's your religious belief, I mean, then you're going to accept it and say, no, this is absolutely proof. How dare you question NASA? You asked them for this spacewalk footage, and after 7 or 8 months, they provided it to you, and it's proof that there's a spacewalk. that's one side of the coin, and the other side is there's not even video of the two astronauts for longer than an hour of this 7-hour spacewalk, and it's just pictures of the ISS, which look like the same pictures of a model. What looks like to me.
Well, what I meant was, when normally when like NASA release like ISS footage or whatever, there's usually errors in it that somebody somewhere will spot, and they'll say, yeah, that can't be true because. Has anybody like looked at it and gone, yeah, that's wrong?
Nope, not that I've heard or seen anybody send me any footage of it. I mean, some of it looks wrong to me. It just is too much time to go through the whole thing. I think I forgot what I said, 32 hours or something of total footage. So you'd have to just sit there and stare for that long. And I think it's meant to keep me from doing it again. And they did a decent job at that. To go through that again. Just doesn't. I mean, if somebody does that for a living or gets paid to sit around and wait on NASA and answer their emails and follow up and all the hoops you have to climb through, that's maybe possible if somebody's paying. But for just somebody who's a researcher who is trying to get a hold of some NASA footage, they totally do a great job of making sure you never ask them again. So sounds
when you received it, did it have any influence in persuasion to you with regards to maybe they did go to the moon, or did you just literally just think that no matter what they give me, I'm not going to accept that they went to the moon anyway?
Well, this had nothing to do with the moon, but no, I mean, to me, there's no real question of whether or not we went to the moon.
Hang on, what do you mean? I thought they were playing golf on the moon. Isn't that the whole point of the video request?
Nope, they were playing golf. So the point of the video request is that I saw a little segment of basically a guy hitting a golf.
Hey Warren, can you mute your watch page?
Come on, Billy Wazzer, you know what to do. Mute your page before joining.
So yeah, there was a
it was muted. You got terrible feedback, Billy.
Hello, testing. All right, better. There was a guy hitting a golf ball off the what they call the porch, and it was a terrible looking swing and just terrible looking video. And so I said I just wanted to see more of that spacewalk. So when I went searching, all I could find was this 1 or 2 minute segment, and I couldn't find anything else from that spacewalk. So I just started to kind of think like, why can't I? Usually I can find something, some upload from NASA or some upload on YouTube of a spacewalk, but this one I couldn't find. It was only 2006. So that's why I started looking for it. And when I couldn't find it anywhere, archive.org, and I just said, well, I'm just going to do a Freedom of Information Act request for it. And it took them 8 months, which that alone should tell people a lot. You're talking about a space from 2006. I don't know why we're not digitally archiving these things where it could be gathered easily rather than taking 8 months and what ended up costing $1,400.
So if I was just to play devil's advocate, if I was a baller and I said, well, come on, Jaron, you wrote to them and you asked them for it and they give it you, what more would you want? How would you respond?
Well, I would respond with, why isn't it providing proof that the spacewalk took place? Why was I told that there would be audio included and there wasn't? Why was I told that there would be head cam footage from one of the astronauts and there wasn't? They did it. I mean, if you want to make excuses for NASA, which is what ballers do, then there's really no use in having conversations with those people anyway.
No,
I was talking to Chris Van Metre yesterday about his debate with Jesse Kozlowski, and I just said, the problem is that these guys will never see, and it's because they've taken their position. They obviously have a space religion, and they've taken that position. And then once you've kind of started to talk down, laugh at, or make fun of other people, that's going to prevent you from ever seeing the error of your ways. It's too easy. You're already in the majority. To change your mind would put you in the minority. I think that we're in a way different position. We're dying to see evidence that the Earth's a ball.
Yeah.
It'd be very easy for me to see evidence and just go, oh, finally, okay, you're right, and just become part of the majority. Well, that'd be easy. But the problem is we already believe that, and it's based on all of our thoughts about those beliefs that they had or that we formerly had. It makes us not believe it.
Hey, Jaron, great to finally meet you. And I think it's great that you have paid for this release of data. really good work.
Yeah, thanks. No, it was you know, a GoFundMe for the most part. As soon as I heard the price of that, I said, no, I'm not going to pay that. And then as we said that on Globebusters, there was an immediate like $600 donation, and somebody said, no, go get the footage. And so we started to GoFundMe for the other half, and that was earned within a month. So yeah, it was everybody in the community, and yeah, it was some hoops to jump through. I think it kind of forced their hand. But, you know, personally, I think that they may have created it on the spot or needed to. There's nothing about it that tells me this is the same two astronauts that hit the ball from the. Alrighty.
Yeah, great. And I've gotten some Apollo 14 photos from eBay that NASA doesn't have online, and I've been scanning them, and we're almost done, and all of these scans will be published online, and they are already, but we're almost finished. But NASA doesn't have them online. I asked them several months ago if they are going to put these Apollo 14 photos online, but they haven't replied yet. So yeah, it's really awesome that.
Very interesting. You got this from eBay, you said?
Yeah.
Wow. That's fine.
I can actually show some photos of, if you want, of the prints. They are 20 by 24 inch darkroom prints made in the 70s or something of Apollo 14 photos. And they aren't, well, they are online, but in a very low resolution, something like 20 something like 200 by 200. And our scans are about 300 megapixels, so much better than what NASA has put online.
Very cool.
Could you say
Yo,
quick
show
hello?
some. You're gonna show some, Apollo?
Sorry, Jose. Just want to say a quick hello to the other guest that we didn't say. Hi, Apollo. I didn't introduce you. My bad. Hi, Eric. How you doing?
Good. Cheers, guys. How's it going?
Very well. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Yeah, show them by all means, Apollo. If you're willing, I'll have a look. By all means.
It's Apollo. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. Are you still a globe guy or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Oh,
I'll tell you what, Apollo. Whilst you're here, let's get Jaren to ask you a question about I don't know, Jaren. Ask him a question about why he supports the globe still, and let's see what his answer is. Just think of something on the spot. What would you know?
Best question would be, you know, give me your one reason. What's if you had to boil it down to one reason, one proof, one fact, one thing that you would tell somebody who says, you know, do we live on a ball? And you say yes, obviously. So, what is the number one reason or number one proof of that?
Because radio amateurs with ham radio equipment can receive satellites from space without the help of NASA. So that's third-party evidence for a first-party claim. So you have a first party that claims there are satellites in space. But then you have a third party, the radio amateurs, that can receive those satellites with their ham radio equipment and even communicate with them with a relay.
So if you if there's a balloon that we've seen many of these balloons with this satellite-looking apparatus attached to it, if I put one of those up above your house and say from 20 or 30 miles away, I'm able to send data to it via radio waves that you then pick up from your house. That's where I've told you to aim. I told you to aim up at a certain coordinate.
The angle of, so let's say you have two radio dishes. The angle of the radio dishes would change depending on the height of the source, you know, because of trigonometry, right? So if the source was very high, the dishes would be pointing at another location, than if the source.
Aren't ham radio towers? They're not satellite dishes. Most ham. I mean, a guy across the street is a ham radio guy. He doesn't have a dish. He has a tower, like a regular traditional tower.
Yeah. Most amateurs use a tower, but some use a radio dish. And I'm talking about those specific because a radio tower, you wouldn't be able to tell the source by the angle you're pointing at. But a radio dish, depending on its shape, would only receive a radio signal coming right at it.
No. I know what you actually. I've seen towers that are a combination. It's foundation is a tower, which is probably the ground-based radio, but then, like Jaron is saying, a balloon, and you say a satellite. So then there'll be a directed dish at a certain location. Okay, go ahead, Jaron. I'm sorry.
He's dropped. I guess he'll come back, but
no, I just wanted to clear that up because I mean, there's a guy right across and he's starting to say dish, and I'm thinking, wait. Ham radio is usually towers, but
what does that prove to you though? What's the point it proves?
That was my question. Yeah, does satellites have anything to do? Whatever is bouncing signals or receiving or sending signals have to do anything with the shape of the Earth? Really?
I would say so, because the way we communicate with satellites, I don't think it works on a flat Earth, because satellites orbit, and you can't orbit a flat Earth because gravity doesn't exist.
Orbit.
It's about density, right? I don't think density allows for orbits.
Hey, Event Horizon, how you doing?
So,
and we were talking about cameras, and yesterday I got a Nikon D610, a D610 full frame camera, and I'm using it now as a webcam. So you have a huge depth of field because it is a full frame camera. So to have a large depth of field, which I think gives me a pretty cool aesthetic.
Yeah, nice camera.
Okay.
I don't know. It looks like it's one of Ranty's. In and out of focus.
Very nice. Sorry, Anthony. Hold on. So that's very nice. Very nice camera, Apollo. Now, you mentioned a couple of times in your description, I listened quite closely, about orbits in space. Now, outer space is an impossible medium, and this is where they say the satellites reside. So, in order for you to have outer space, we would need to see a demonstration of gas pressure being maintained without a container. So obviously we have gas pressure, we're breathing it, and the place that you say these satellites orbit the presupposed spherical Earth is outer space, a vacuum. So how would you square that circle?
I'm working on it. I'm talking with someone who has a vacuum chamber for work, and I've asked him if he can use, how do you call it, this peroxide, this heavy gas that's heavier than air, so it sinks, and it gives you a very heavy voice. So this guy's interested in doing an experiment. Okay, maybe I can draw it on.
But your experiment is a chamber, so I don't know what that's going to prove. So
let's call the chamber a container.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
I have been using the wrong term. I should be using observation, not experiment.
Well,
because
we need to see how a vacuum can exist. A vacuum also needs a chamber. There needs to be a separation between a pressure system and a vacuum. I mean, again, you're going to do an experiment in a chamber. So,
how about I draw it on my screen, on just with Windows Paint? How about I do that?
I'd like to see your experiment that didn't use all your whatever without using a container, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so we have to create a vacuum. But so, the chamber is So I was thinking about this.
Yeah, that's our point, dude. You have to make the vacuum.
No.
Right?
Hold on, Anthony. Hold on. What he's saying is, in order to demonstrate that you can have gas pressure without a container, first you need a vacuum, so that you have something that they claim is analogous to space, and then within that chamber, what we need to see is something like, imagine, I don't know, a picture of Earth. So let's just bring up one for the audience, like this. So this black bit, I know you can't see it in the Hangout, that's space, vacuum, and this bit is gas pressure, right? So what we need to see is some sort of ball inside that vacuum chamber holding on to its gas pressure.
Nathan, I can help with that. I have some experiments that show that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bit of a shock.
Give me a sec. I'll show. Here we go.
Well, while Apollo's drawing his diagram, hopefully that'll buy Apollo a bit of time.
Yeah. So if I share my screen now, and I'm sure if Apollo watches this, if he glances at this, this will make an awful lot of sense to him. You see my screen, Apollo?
Yes.
This is a little balloon with a bit of helium in it, and he puts it inside the vacuum chamber, and he sucks all the air out of it. So the balloon exists inside a vacuum chamber, and we know that that's pressurized because he put the pressure in it before he put it in, right? And as he sucked all the air out, it gained in size because the pressure was pushing out on the inside of the balloon. And basically, this could be Earth. Let's imagine that this is Earth existing in the vacuum of space, because the vacuum is there, right? So if we could change the color of this to blue, add a couple of fake clouds, and tell everybody that's where we live, then there's a membrane keeping the pressure in, right?
Yes.
How would you get a pressure to exist inside a vacuum chamber without a membrane?
So how about I continue to draw my
cool
observation. Okay. So there are two ways we go. So this is the vacuum chamber, or a representation of the vacuum chamber. I don't think it actually looks like this. Lol. So how about we put how's it called again? Peroxide. Actually, let me. Wacht even. Oh, mensen.
Oh.
Ja?
Maar ga je...
Ja, als ik met haar maar goed.
Ja.
Nee, oké.
Je zijn wel...
Ja. Hey, back.
No.
So, do any of you know the name of this heavy gas that makes your voice a very low?
Sulfur hexafluoride.
Yeah, sulfur hexafluoride. So, sulfur hexafluoride sinks to the bottom. So, it's, so how about we fill this chamber with sulfur hexafluoride? But this hexafluoride has a denser pressure than the surrounding air, right? Because it is heavier, it is denser, so it has a denser pressure than the.
Is this inside the vacuum, or is this not in the vacuum yet?
Not in the vacuum yet.
Okay.
So, and then this is just normal air under normal atmospheric pressure. I think we can agree that because this is heavier, it has a greater density than the surrounding air. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so how about we start sucking? So how about we put a balloon? How about we put a balloon right here? And we put a balloon of the same size next to each other, so we see both of the balloons have the same size at the beginning. And then we take one of those balloons down to the hexafluoride, and I would assume it shrinks because there is because the hexafluoride has a greater pressure, it shrinks down the balloon.
How would you make?
Hold on,
how
Anthony.
would you
Hold on.
balloon?
Hold on. He hasn't got to his point.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to ask mechanically, how do you get it down into that?
Yeah, I mean a string or yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's not a vacuum. Hold on, it's not a vacuum yet. Who cares? This wouldn't have to have a lid at this stage. It's not a vacuum yet.
Yeah.
Just carry on,
So,
Apollo. Conceptually, I'm with you. Just carry on.
okay. So we have one tiny balloon and one big balloon, and then we start sucking out the air out of the vacuum chamber, and this balloon should increase in size until
Are you saying selectively just suck out the air?
I was going to just let him get to the end. I'm going to ask that as well. You're all on the same lines as me. I just want him to get to the end of his point without being barraged with questions as he goes.
So this balloon should increase in size because the surrounding air is being removed and maybe at one point pops. But because this sulfur hexafluoride is heavier, it stays at the bottom and the balloon stays the same size because the pressure is staying the same. Because
No.
Hold on. Just let him get to the end of his point, and then we'll rip it a new one. I know you're all keen.
I don't think the sulfur hexafluoride will be sucked out by the vacuum, and it will thus create a pressure right here with a vacuum above it. That's my point.
Okay, well, you're wrong.
That gas is going straight out with the normal air.
Right. The second you pull the air out at the top, entropy takes effect, and that gas at the bottom, right, will just fill the container that it's in. That's what gas does. And then if you carry on sucking, it's just going to suck out all of the hexafluoride as well. So you're just left with nothing, a vacuum. It doesn't selectively just pull the air out. You've got to be kidding.
And that balloon that you've got in hexafluoride that you say shrinks because of the pressure, if it did shrink because of the pressure, I don't think you'd even notice it because of the resistance of the balloon. But let's say it did. When you suck the vacuum of the air out, that balloon will increase its size, even though it's in the hexafluoride.
Lastly, none of this at any stage, even if what you said was true, that in a vacuum hexafluoride sinks to the bottom, it suddenly doesn't suffer the effects of entropy for some reason, it doesn't expand to fill the container it's in. Even if that was true, this absolutely still doesn't demonstrate gas pressure without a container now, does it?
Well, the sulfur hexafluoride has a pressure, right? Because it is
a density.
What, you mean less than, you mean it's more dense than air?
Affirmative.
Right, but ultimately speaking, if you suck the air out of that container, it will just fill the container. If you could do what you suggested, which is separately suck the air out.
Okay, so what would happen if the air is sucked out, but the sulfur hexafluoride remains at the bottom?
It fills the container.
That can't happen.
Let's pretend it can. It will fill the container.
The balloon will get slightly bigger then, Apollo. Yeah, the one that's in the sulfur hexafluoride, as the sulfur hexafluoride fills the container once you remove the air, the density of the sulfur hexafluoride will have decreased as it expands to fill the volume. Therefore, there'll be less pressure on that balloon. Therefore, that small balloon will expand.
But
if you could do the impossible that you're suggesting, obviously.
But either way, but regardless of the impossible task that would be part of this setup, you tell me now, Apollo, how do you think, even if everything you said was true and we could do everything you've described, how do you think this demonstrates gas pressure without a container?
Because you wanted to have an experiment show gas pressure within a vacuum, or how do you word it?
Sorry.
I'm not sure.
How do you maintain gas pressure without a container? So I'll just for the audience point out the fatal flaw with this. That would be the container containing all of the gas pressures. So this would be the demonstration of a container. So I gave you the benefit of the doubt that within the parameters of the vacuum that you create, you would manage to have a little blue marble in the middle holding its gas pressure, but you don't. You have balloons that have membranes, unlike the Earth you believe in, and back to the main point of all this, the space that you believe the satellites reside in. So the gas pressure of space defies the second law of thermodynamics, it cannot exist. And this, even if all parameters that you believe could be the case, they can't, but if they could, it still does not in any way, shape or form demonstrate that you can defy the second law of thermodynamics. You cannot have gas pressure without a container. Within your apparatus, you have the container that contains the vacuum, the container that contains the pressure within the balloon, another balloon that's containing its pressure. You've got nothing but an example of multiple containers.
Okay, so how would you propose we make an observation? Sorry, how do you propose we create a vacuum without a container?
Sorry,
can't, that's
hold on, let me answer.
Yeah,
I
your
don't
problem, it's
care.
not ours, is
Let me
it?
just answer him. I don't care. I don't have a space religion that needs gas pressure to be maintained without a container. So don't ask me how it's possible to defy the second law of thermodynamics to make your religion work. You show me how your religion is anything more than just a religious belief in gas pressure being maintained without the necessary antecedent. A container.
Can you show me the container between this sulfur hexafluoride and the emptiness of this space?
Yeah, it's got a pressure differential. Like all of those oils that are separated by their density, the same applies in the air.
But we remove the air out of the chamber, so there is
No,
only
you didn't.
the
Sorry,
sulfur.
stop. Sorry, did you? Or did you just draw a drawing and assert that you could remove the air separately, and then we pointed out that that would not be possible?
That's how I think this observation is going to
No,
work.
Apollo. No, it was a drawing that didn't make sense because you couldn't separately suck the air out. What would happen is the hexafluoride would have entropy affecting it, and it would fill the container. That's what gas does.
Okay, well, thank you, Nathan, and I will keep you updated on if we do this observation or not with a vacuum chamber.
You've got to be
Apollo,
kidding me.
Can I just ask you?
Hold on,
When
just
you-
let me round out, Anthony. This is a religious belief. The second law of thermodynamics is not going to be defied. Now, no offence to you, Apollo, but given that you believe we've had this religious assertion of a globe Earth for 2,000 plus years, do you not think it would be possible to just attain this somewhere that backs your religious belief in space?
That's what I'm sitting here thinking. He's going away to do an experiment when the paradigm is a global Earth sitting in a vacuum. Surely this stuff should have been sorted out. You should be able to reference an experiment.
This is
to
what
be
I
able
want.
to solve the problem.
This is what I wanted to ask before. Apollo asked Nathan. He says, "How do you suggest that we get this set up?" And Nathan's response was, "I don't bloody care." What Nathan's response should have perhaps been is, "That's the problem. How do you have a vacuum with something that's pressurized inside it when you need to have the separation? Because apparently the Earth lives in space, right? How are you going to do that?"
The answer is just we can't. We can't.
Correct.
produce the experiment.
Correct. We see that. But Apollo asked us, how does he do his own experiment? And our position is, you can't. But Apollo had to ask that question because he realized that it can't be done. But he's asking us to do his experiment for him. And we're saying, you can't do your experiment because it doesn't do what you think it does. You can't have a gas pressure exist next to a vacuum without a membrane. Because like Conspiracy Flaps said, without the balloon, there is no pressure. Well, you need that membrane. So how are you going to do it?
The balloons were just to show the pressure differential. They were.
Yeah, but what happens if you don't have the balloon?
Then you would need to use a pressure gauge, to show a pressure differential.
Apollo, can I just ask a question? Are
There
you
wouldn't be a pressure differential. Why do you think that there would be a pressure differential?
Because I think the sulfur hexafluoride won't expand.
Then it's not a vacuum.
Yeah, because you've still got air in it. You've still got air in there at that stage. The second you remove the air, not that you could do that individually, but let's just say you just changed the setup and replaced it with hexafluoride, it's not going to sit at the bottom of the tank with a nice vacuum above it.
At the top. That's
it's just going to fill it. That's what entropy does. It makes it expand and fill the container. That's what gas
Apollo,
pressure is.
if you were to replace it with water, what would happen to the water as you created a vacuum above it?
It would start boiling.
So what do you think a much more volatile substance is likely to do?
I don't know. I'm no chemist.
It would just rapidly expand and fill that volume.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't think about it like that. Thank you.
That might be the reason why you believe that we have a ball in space.
Well, I'm just working on this observation, and I think it would still be cool to see a chamber with this setup, just to see what happens. You know, if
well, hang on. The problem is the sulfur hexafluoride is see-through. It's a see-through odorless gas that you wouldn't be able to see what the gas did anyway, because it wouldn't give you anything visual. You'd have to use a gas that had a color to it.
Hold on. What we're asking to see isn't what you're demonstrating. What we want is the square box that you've got. You suck all the air out of it. Now imagine the balloon. It's a ball with gas inside it. Imagine that without the balloon. So you've just got this sphere of a gas floating around in a vacuum. Doesn't it sound farcical to assume that you could do that? That you could have a balloon inside a vacuum, pop the balloon, and rather than it filling the container, it would just stay there as a circle of gas, just happily floating around in the vacuum, defying the second law of thermodynamics, not filling its container. It's akin to saying inside the balloon, so you've got this balloon, inside it, there's another ball of gas pressure that's an inch by an inch in a 20 centimetre or 10 inch balloon. Inside that balloon, there's another ball of gas. It doesn't have anything containing it. It's just sitting inside, rattling around like a marble. Inside. Gas pressure inside gas pressure. Nonsense. You're never going to demonstrate it. You're never going to have a ball inside a vacuum chamber maintaining a gas pressure. Unless it's inside a membrane like a balloon. Second that balloon's removed, it just fills the container instantaneously.
Okay. Well, I know my camera just did something. I'm no chemist, but I will put your input forward to the guy I'm working with. Or maybe we will figure something out. Any ideas?
Yes, please show us when you fail.
Yeah, you've got to show that you've got a vacuum, and then you've got to show that you've got a gas pressure in the middle of it somehow, without defying the law of entropy.
I am a chemist, Apollo, hence why I was trying to explain that to you.
Okay, I do think you guys were right, but I'm just going through with this experiment. You know,
big shout out to Retro Bill. But I just want to, if you think we're right.
About what exactly?
About not being able to maintain gas pressure without a container. Would you concede that we're right about that? It's not possible to defy the law of the second law of thermodynamics. You can't have a ball of gas in the middle of a vacuum. Would you agree?
I was talking specifically about the sulfur hexafluoride dissipating when we remove the air.
Okay, number one, we don't have a layer of sulfur hexafluoride. We just live in air. So let's just worry about the air for a minute. Let's pretend that you've got a gas chamber, a vacuum chamber. You suck all the air out, right? Now again, I'm going to be magic, and I can reach my magic hand through the glass without it being affecting it in any way. And I'm going to place... I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to grab hold of some gas pressure in my hands, and I'm going to put it inside the vacuum chamber. Would you ever concede that it will stay as a little round ball that I've gathered up like a snowball of gas and put inside? Would you ever concede that you could just look inside it in this gas that happens to be pink, and you just see a pink circle of gas floating around in a vacuum chamber? Do you ever think that would ever be demonstrated?
Not at a tiny scale, no.
Sorry, it doesn't matter about the scale. Let's not worry about scale. Can you ever envisage having a ball, let's say, hypothetically, because we can do this, we're just imagining things. I've got a vacuum chamber that's 1,000,000 miles wide. Do you think I can put any gas that I've gathered up with my hands, crushed together like a snowball, and I put it in my 1,000,000-mile wide vacuum chamber that's perched on the edge of Earth? Do you think that will just survive there?
One moment.
Apollo, you're a really great guy. I just want to thank you because you are very polite with your approach, and you think ahead of what you say because you're not invoking gravity. You don't invoke the science in the beginning, even though you're just calling an experiment. But I thank you for having this honest and humble
We're
approach.
one step away from the
Appreciate it.
concluding point here. So hopefully you will concede that it is inconceivable, regardless of the size of vacuum chamber, to ever be able to ball up a bit of gas and put it in a circle or a sphere inside that vacuum chamber and have it just magically survive without dissipation. Would you concede that? Because if you don't, obviously we can't move on.
Not without invoking gravity.
Sorry, gravity is a mathematical construct.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, so let's not invoke maths. Okay, that's not reality. So, do you think we could ever demonstrate that, regardless of the size of chamber, me balling up some gas, leaving it inside the vacuum chamber and have it surviving? Do you think that would ever happen? Do you think that could ever be demonstrated?
Just gas? No.
Right, so, like we assert, you can't have gas pressure without a container. Now, the Earth you believe you live in is that exact scenario, Apollo. No difference, 100% identical. We've got this tiny thing called the blue marble that is literally floating around in a 1,000,000-mile gas chamber with no pressure in it. So the blue marble you think you live on, with satellites in that area we don't prove, we don't see, and we are told to believe in, and that defies the second law of thermodynamics, do you still believe that satellites reside in that outer space area that's an impossibility?
Yes, because
why
we can
would that be?
them.
It defies logic. We've just taken you over some considerable amount of time
Wait,
through the
you
logic.
said yes, because why? Because we can. What did you say?
Because we can receive those satellites with radio equipment.
No. You've been given an alternative in terms of what they could be. Your assertion is that they fall around a ball Earth, and that ball Earth is sat in the vacuum of space. So the medium that these satellites are in is the vacuum of space that cannot exist because you can't have a gas pressure without a container.
Okay, by your logic, you're right.
So
this
is the point. Don't tell me, I know I'm right. You tell me why you take the step from, I understand you can't have gas pressure in a vacuum without a container, to my world is that. How do you take that? Where's your logic? Not maths, logic.
You specified a ball of just gas, but Earth isn't just gas, it's also mass, rock, and rock, wood, whatever.
Yes.
I'm not concerned about the rock. Yeah? I'm pretty sure I can put a stone in a vacuum chamber and it'll be fine. However, if I then say that, okay, I'll change my example just for you. So I get my little pebble and then I manage to squash gas to the pebble. Right? Getting a bit more ludicrous now, but I've managed to squash some gas and get it to stick to my pebble. Then I put my pebble in the vacuum of space. Will that pebble maintain its gas pressure on the outside edge in the vacuum of space because it's somehow been squashed to the pebble? Velcroed this gas chamber to the pebble. Don't know how that's going to happen. Maybe you can demonstrate that to me.
Apollo, can I maybe give you a demonstration?
Hold on. I want to hear an answer. Do you think that I can A, squash gas to a pebble, and B, because I've squashed gas to a pebble and velcroed a gas to a pebble, that will survive the vacuum of space without entropy taking effect?
I would say no. Pebbles are way too small.
Oh, sorry. So if I put a football in the gas chamber, and it's football-sized rock. Let's say it's a house-sized rock. Can I shove my gas to it? Can I Velcro gas to a house-shaped rock so much so that it will sufficiently be able to maintain gas pressure in a container? Because the bigger the rock, the more likely it is to have gas Velcroed to it.
No, still too small. You need. You would need.
Sorry,
Apollo,
so let me get this straight.
Can I give you an analogy?
I could build a hanger-sized vacuum chamber, right? Put a house in it, and you're telling me that even though it's the size of a house or the size of a submarine, I still can't get gas pressure to Velcro to it.
Nathan, you see where he's going. It's the same thing. The only way to do a real experiment to prove gravity was to bring Mars close to our Earth orbit. That's the only. So it's the planet.
There's no way to demonstrate this, and the only scale that we get to actually see it is the scale that we can't go and see at, because none of us are going to space to see your scale that does it. Presumably, it'll do it at the scale of Earth, right, Apollo? So only at the scale that your religious belief kicks in, that you can't actually go and check this. So I can't do it with a house. I can't do it with a pebble. But you can do it with Earth, and I can't double check it.
See, he said it. Exactly.
Okay, so let me give you a planetary scale then, Apollo. Have you ever used a straw?
Yes.
Right. So you are, when you use a straw,
how big?
When you're sucking a liquid up through a straw, you're creating a vacuum. Now that vacuum to pull the liquid up is opposing your ball Earth gravity. Yet the vacuum that your mouth is able to create is actually able to pull not only air but also liquid as well away from the gravitational pull of the Earth. Yeah. So don't you think a much more stronger vacuum than you sucking on a straw would liberate gas, a gas which is much further away from the center of the Earth as well? So a much weaker gravitational pull, unless of course you've got the strongest suction straw, that's stronger than a vacuum of space. So there's a comparison for you against the Earth's gravity. You can beat it with a straw, mate.
Good point. Good point. I didn't think about it like that yet. Well, I did read something about a vacuum not actually sucking, but I don't know about that. So, good point.
Apollo, can I ask you a question slightly off topic, because you threw out the term logic there? Are you familiar with inductive reasoning as opposed to reductive reasoning?
No. English is it my? I mean, no.
Okay.
No.
Can I suggest you just reductive and inductive reasoning, because it's quite clear that you are stuck in inductive. You're making presuppositions. Like, I knew what you were doing with we needed the globes. We need the planetary scale. How convenient. So you just have to make the
Apollo, you know, Isaac Newton, do you know what his position was with regards to this so-called gravity in space, with regards to planets and other things?
No.
Well, you know, Einstein basically replaced Newton's theories with relativity, right? And that's considered to be the current science. Well, I'm going to read to you what Isaac Newton's position was with regards to the concept that there may be gravitational forces between other planets. Quite lengthy. It's like a paragraph, but bear with me and I'll try and add it with the expression needed to make the point. It reads, I'll have to clear my voice. It says, it says, "'Tis inconceivable that inanimate brute matter should, without the mediation of something else which is not material, operate upon and affect the other matter without mutual contact. Additionally, that gravity should be innate, inherent, and essential to matter, so that only one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else by and through which their own action or force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has in philosophical matters any competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into it. And basically, he's using an old English prose that I struggle with and most people will struggle with. But what he's basically saying is that the idea of this force between planets and gravity is so ridiculous that anybody with any element of faculty of mind would not believe it at all. But this gravity thing is the thing that you need to be able to claim that this pressure can exist in a vacuum, right? You need that gravity. And Newton laughs at the idea, calling it absurd.
Shout out to Isaac Newton.
Shout out. So, yeah, nice read. Unfortunately, I am not very well versed in gravity, you know, how it works. I don't know really much about it. So, unfortunately, I won't be able to really debate about the technical parts of it.
Sure.
Hold on. This was the premise. This was the sole premise of your belief in the outer space that the satellites reside in. This is the entire premise of it. That was the linchpin that I was trying to get to. So, you know, you're conceding, right, we can't do it with a house in a vacuum chamber, it's just not big enough. Eventually, given enough time, we get to the point where you just assert it's only Earth that we'd be able to do this, therefore just asserting a religious belief about it. So, there's no logic here. Shout again to Retro Bill.
Apollo, I'd like to ask you, you know, the satellite thing, could you possibly put it out of your mind for a moment that this thing that we call satellites is just up in the sky, in the atmosphere, and sending signals? I mean, is that too hard for you to theorize that it might be the reality?
I could do a hypothetical, how do you call it? Hypothetical situations. I can do those. So
Okay.
sure.
So it's possible that it's just high up in the sky, these what you call satellites.
Yeah, really quick. Sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna step out so Arwin can jump in the panel. He got more to say instead of me. So thank you guys. Thank you very much. And if somebody drop later or I get a chance, I'll jump in. If not, congratulations. Happy anniversary, guys.
Thank you very much, Jose. Good to see you.
Cheers, Jose.
Happy anniversary, Nathan.
Thank you, Apollo. Hopefully next year you won't be a globehead.
Oh, sure.
So that was a yes, that what we're calling satellites could be just mechanisms high altitude. Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Arwin.
Hey, Arwin.
Hello.
Hi, Arwin.
I just want to make a quick note that Apollo actually says Arwin's name correctly. He's the only panelist who says Arwin's name correctly. Can you just say his name once more, Apollo?
Oh dear.
Arwin. Sowieso Arwin. Sowieso. Je weet zelf.
That's how you actually say Arwin's name.
Ja, zo zeg je dat. Dat klopt.
Je weet zelf.
Ja, ik zeg het zelf bijna nooit zo.
Urine?
In het Nederlands laat ik me ook zo niet aanspreken, zeg maar. Dus het is echt mijn naam hier voor op YouTube.
Oh, oké.
Blobberdob, blib, blob, blib.
Ja,
Scheveningen.
Marokkanen.
I don't mind urine.
Welvaart.
Urine works for me.
Scheepsbouw.
VOC. Kolonisten.
So, have you been listening to the conversation, Arwin?
De kolonisatie. Zwarte Piet. Sinterklaas.
Okay, enough now, Arwin.
Check it out, cheeky sod.
Ah, somebody muted me.
I think that was just for comedic effect. I don't think that was personal.
Sorry, just
not personal.
Just flexing my my facial muscles.
So let us know, Arwin, if you've been listening. What do you make of this whole vacuum of space?
Yeah, it's a theoretically impossible construct, even by their own standards. Even if you would assume gravity works the way it does, even if you would assume the Earth is a ball, it doesn't work. Gravity is
Nathan.
technically considered a weak force, and entropy is one of the most violent ones. Very strong. So it can't work by their own standards.
Hey, Apollo, let me ask you, we see a lot of this narrative in the media that, you know, humanity is destroying the planet and we need to, for the species to survive, we need to get out into the cosmos. I mean, do you hold that worldview? That we are destroying Mother Earth, the planet, and we need to listen to Ray Kurzweil and these trends, you know, we need to get out into the stars to save the species?
I'm not sure. I would say not to the extent the media is proclaiming. I'm not saying we need to, but I would say having in the near future, you know, I'm talking several hundred years, I would say it is beneficial to human civilization and culture and continue existence if we were to colonize other planets.
Okay.
But that's the far future. I don't think having 10 people on Mars will save the human race, for example, you know.
Yeah, the great dream of infinite expansion. I know.
Great dream.
I
Dreamers,
know. It's very addictive, even for me.
Everything started with a dream at one point.
Yeah, but we'd prefer if those dreams didn't get asserted on us as though they were actual reality.
The dreams are problematic because they will make you try to invest in something that is totally impossible. That's like religious atonement.
And that's sort of why sci-fi, the sci-fi genre has been so successful.
It may be enjoyed, but it's a false hope. And if you are honest with yourself, eventually you will know it'll never come true. And the people like that really know this shit, and some Freemasons, I guess, that know it, they just think like, yeah, I hope they could just enjoy the dream as long as possible until they figure out it's fake, because then you lose that joy. That's how they see it. So they don't want to ruin it.
Fair point. Thank you, Arwijn.
But, yeah. But it is potentially a waste.
Oh, and Sleeping Warrior, yes, I did pay. I did pay for Sparkle Cam about 1 hour ago. I got it just for this hangout.
How much was it? Was it $100? €100?
No, I got the one just for Nikon cameras on single user, which was like $50 or €55.
Can you send me a link?
You mean, yeah, it's just on their Sparkle website. If you just buy the Nikon or just buy the Canon version, it is just $55. Single user, 1 year of upgrades.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. Did you think I did look at that and I thought, nah, it's too expensive, that. Oh, by the way, listen, Nathan, if I said to you that space was a container, what would you say?
Space is alleged to be a vacuum by globeheads.
Now, you know, Einsteinian gravity is not a force, whereas Newtonian gravity is a force.
Right.
According to that same article,
no claims.
According to the same article that snaps the wand of Newtonian gravity, this is what it says. It says, I'll read it. It says, in short, Einstein's theory is non-local in a more subtle and insidious way, more than Newton's theory of gravity was. Newtonian gravity acted at a distance, but at least it operated within a framework of absolute space. Einsteinian gravity has no such element of wizardry. Its effects ripple through the universe at the speed of light, yet it demolishes the framework, violating locality in what was, for Einstein, its most basic sense, the stipulation that all things have a location. Now pay attention. General relativity confounds our intuitive pictures of space as a kind of container in which material objects reside and forces us to search for an entirely new conception of place. So they're now describing, according to Scientific American, that Einsteinian gravity relies on the container of space.
Well, yeah, but it's all about relativity. It's in reference to your actual given position at any one time, so you can make the universe work from any position. Jaron did a video on this. Anyway, yeah, it doesn't matter. That's fine. Even if they want to argue that as being useful, in the same way as Apollo had a container to create the vacuum in the first place, I don't mind if you say, well, in our world, the outside edge is a container. It doesn't make any difference. Once you suck the air out of it, you have something analogous to a vacuum. Now you stick your marble with stuff crushed against it inside there and see if it maintains gas pressure without a container, within that vacuum. Forget that the outside of the vacuum has to be created. I'm fine with that. That's why I stopped you objecting to Apollo, and it was like, hold on, I've got to create the vacuum in something, i.e. a container, and then we're going to try and create a gas pressure without a container inside that vacuum. Well, that's absolutely fine. It makes no difference to the example, but regardless of what they think the edge of space is, again, they're never going to prove it. I'm just going to play out this just so you can...
Or view additional materials from hundreds of MIT courses. Visit MIT OpenCourseWare at ocw.mit.edu.
All right, let's try another pretty simple process. Let's just take a gas in some volume, V, and over here is going to be vacuum of equal volume, and we're going to remove the barrier. You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available, right? You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available. And we're going to remove the barrier. The gas is going to fill the available volume. Take a gas, and over here is going to be vacuum, and we're going to remove the barrier. You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume. Fill the available volume. Fill the available volume. Fill the available volume.
Holy shit.
I don't think that most people in chat do.
They'll never get it.
I mean, let's name and shame some Dumbos in chat. We've got Daniel, completely stupid. We've got what's the other guy's name?
I don't know what Daniel is, but I have my doubts he's even human sometimes.
So, complete moron, be rational, complete moron. You guys all think that these things are all true. It's utter garbage.
What things?
These concepts.
The concept of Earth being a pressurized gas next to a vacuum.
Yeah, these concepts they believe are true. It's the perfect definition of reification, guys. You guys believe that concepts are true.
Keyword believe.
Yeah.
So that was
Nathan.
I played that because Unorthodox in the chat was like, why do you think that the second law of thermodynamics... Well, there you go. There's an MIT lecture on the second law specifically saying that you take a gas in a volume and you put it next to a vacuum and then you remove the barrier. And what do you know? It fills the available volume. That's what happens. So, unless you can demonstrate Earth, a little marble, inside a gas chamber, not filling the available volume, defying the second law of thermodynamics, then your space religion is bunk. Sorry, go ahead, Apollo.
Nathan, I would like to congratulate you on your 1 year anniversary. I mean, already have, sorry. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. And I would also like to say you are doing a great job at creating a diverse panel for debates, because I'm going to let you in on a secret. I created and used to be the owner of the biggest flat earth Discord server on the planet. It was called the Flat Earth Society Discord server. We later changed the name to the Flat Earth Debate server, and we used to have 6,000 members registered, and we used to have 1,000 members online at any given point. So our chat rooms were filled with our microphone chat rooms were filled with a lot of people, and it was very difficult for I and my staff to keep it civilized. You know, when there are 50 people online, it's very difficult to keep people from insulting each other, because there are a lot of clashing of viewpoints. So I think you are doing a great job.
Wow, thank you very much. You're probably the first to say it. I'm going to plug Betty's Discord server, as you mentioned it. So, well, not mention Betty's, but mention Discord. So Betty's server is called Science versus Pseudoscience. I think it's got Flat Earth before. Flat Earth Science versus Pseudoscience. So that's Betty's Discord server. She's hoping to get a few more Flat Earthers in there, so it'd be nice to have a few more Flat Earthers in that particular server. I may pick it up and put a link in the info box once the video is rendered. So check out her server. Not that you're not welcome if you're a globehead, but she specifically said encourage Flat Earthers, so that's what I'm doing.
Nathan, could you point to my server as well? Because, well, I don't own it now. I transferred ownership because it was getting too much for me. But we are also looking for Flat Earthers because we have much more globeheads than Flat Earthers. So we are trying to get more Flat Earthers. Could I post an invitation link in the chat?
Go ahead, and I'll stick it in the info box also.
Sure, let me get one for you.
Betty's is very small.
Are there a lot of Dutch people on there?
No, most of them, maybe a few, but we only allow English because if people start talking in their native tongue, we don't know what they are talking about. You know, they could be insulting each other without us knowing it. So we have to talk in English.
That's
now,
terrible, isn't it?
I think right now we have 3,000 registered members and about 700 people online. So,
damn.
So I mentioned
I'm administrator.
I've mentioned the name of Betty's server, so Flat Earth Science versus Pseudoscience. What was the name of your server again?
Flat Earth Debate server or Flat Earth Debate Society. I'm not sure. Let me load it up. Actually, Flat Earth Debate server.
Cool. Quite a few of them.
Huh. Yeah, it's a common name.
Good stuff. We're going to have a short 10-minute break shortly, so I don't know if someone wants to round out with a really damning or interesting point before I do.
You guys don't know what entropy is. I'm looking at the chat now, and I've got Daniel trying to tell me about entropy in the second law of thermodynamics. And you guys don't know what you're talking about, yet you claim that we don't know what we're talking about. Daniel can't even give me one example of an isolated system. Shame on you, Daniel. We'll see you in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Any more for any more? No? With that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. If you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. Also, a massive thank you to all who hit the super chat. I'll see you in about 5 minutes' time. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!